Welcome to the Big Change the Film interview series, and my name is Jason Cohen. I personally have lost over 120 pounds, and every week I chat with inspiring individuals who've also lost significant amounts of weight, hear their stories, and share that for some inspiration. Including today's guest and myself, the total pounds lost is now up to 11,090 pounds. One thing I'm excited about is that on February 28th, next week, I'll be speaking at PBNSG in Detroit alongside Tim Kaufman and Dr. Robert Osfeld. If you happen to be in the Detroit area, I would love to see you, to meet you, and it should be a great night, super inspiring stories, and more information can be found out at pbnsg.org. Again, that website address is pbnsg.org under their events page. It's going to be February 28th next week, should be fantastic, and again, I would love to see you there. I'm going to say a few words now about our sponsor, Health IQ. I appreciate what they're doing and their sponsorship and partnership of the podcast, and here are a few words. The Big Change the Film podcast and interview series is sponsored by Health IQ, which is an insurance company that helps health-conscious people like runners, cyclists, weightlifters, vegetarians, and vegans get lower rates on their life insurance. I was intrigued when they first reached out to me and shared the company's values and mission. My contact, Tim, even told me about how the company cares for the well-being of its own employees by providing a gym to work out in at lunch, healthy eating options, and much, much more. Health IQ can save health-conscious people up to 33% because physically active people have a 56% lower risk of heart disease, 20% lower risk of cancer, and a 58% lower risk of diabetes compared to people who are inactive. 56% of Health IQ customers save between 4 and 33%. They have special rates for those who live an active life, and you can get additional savings by submitting your data through apps like Strava or Runkeeper. Health IQ is the official life insurance partner of USA Weightlifting, Roadrunners Club of America, USA Triathlon, and many more. Go to healthiq.com/BCTF to learn more. Again, that's healthiq.com/BCTF, as in Big Change the Film, to learn more, to help support the show, and to see if you qualify. I appreciate what they're doing with their sponsorship, and 100% of it is going towards the production of this project. Thanks again, Health IQ, for the support. This week's guest is Scott Putnam from Dubuque, Iowa. Scott says that he always thought of himself as relatively healthy compared to other people, but always carried a little bit of an extra weight. In his 40s, Scott was told by his doctor that if he didn't stop his reckless eating, he would soon find himself as a pre-diabetic, he would soon find himself on other meds, as well as a whole host of other medical issues. Scott told me that around the same time, he was always tired, he had sleep issues, as well as he had high cholesterol. Since then, Scott has decided to turn his life and his diet around. He's lost 65 pounds, he's now a marathoner, and we have a great conversation about his journey and so much more. Thanks so much for listening and watching, and have a great day. I'm here with Scott Putnam. I actually found his story on Forks Over Knives, and it turns out we have some mutual friends as well. He's got a great story, has lost some weight. So first off, Scott, we could just start off with where you're from, a little bit about yourself, and maybe how much weight you've lost.
Yeah, absolutely. So originally from Bellingham, Washington, then moved to Seattle, and then China, and now in Dubuque, Iowa. So yeah, I've been a bit nomadic in that regard, and that's a much longer story that we'll save for another day. My weight loss journey started after coming back from China, and the reason my wife and I were teaching in Hangzhou, which is south of Shanghai, for a couple of years with our family, and we had a contract to teach in Saudi Arabia, and got a phone call that her dad was pretty sick with. We didn't know it was cancer at the time, but it turned out to be stage 4 external lung cancer. And her mom was struggling with rheumatoid, or not rheumatoid arthritis, but struggling with Alzheimer's. My mom has rheumatoid arthritis. And so we kind of came back from China, and in the face of death and disease, looking at ourselves going, how do we avoid this? But in the meantime, over a lifetime of reckless eating, I had grown, and I was about 240, and got into plant-based eating and lost about 65 pounds, which wasn't my goal. I didn't know I had that much weight to lose. I just wanted to be healthy, and we're older parents, so I wanted to be around for our kids, and the weight loss was more of a byproduct. So yeah, that's kind of that in a nutshell.
And then how much have you lost in total?
Um, Total, um, that was the biggest drop. Like I fluctuated a lot, um, but it really was 65 pounds. So for me, it was very different. I wasn't one of these guys that was 3, 4, 5. The people that that the public I think would look at and say, "Wow, look at that guy." You know what I mean? Or the doctor would say, "Wow, we need to do something about your weight." I was one of these guys that, yeah, I was obese. I was well into the obese categories. You look at the body mass index, but I was sort of flying under this radar. And for me, that was my get out of jail free card. Okay, I got this big belly and I know I'm obese, but look at that guy. So it was for me, that was my cop out. That was my crutch.
It's almost like a certain level of acceptable. There's like a certain acceptable overweightness, and if you fall within that, then you're kind of a little invisible to compared to the next guy.
Yeah, because the bell curve is generous. I'm like, well, okay, I'm flying under the radar here. I know my cholesterol is elevated, my blood pressure is elevated. I'm getting closer to pre-diabetic, but look at that guy. And probably the person that was in the doctor's office before me was that guy. And so I come in and relative to him or her, like I'm pretty healthy, even though I'm not healthy at all. So
yeah, our standards have been reduced to a pretty low level. So were you so we're talking about 65 pounds. Was that weight something that you put on very slowly? Was that, was your weight something you struggled with whenever you were a kid? Like where did that kind of come into the equation for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I wasn't one of these guys that was always a heavy child. I wasn't like the chunky kid in school. I was actually very fit looking, but grew up on the standard American diet. And luckily, I as a kid, I had a metabolism that was pretty good. And very active. Even though looking back, it's like we ate the typical fare: burgers, fries, shakes, lasagna, like all of the healthy, tasty, super unhealthy food. It didn't really start packing on until college, I think. The 2 a.m., pizza and beer, I noticed the genes went from like the 33 to 34, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, these are tough. Okay, I guess I'm 36, and then get out of college, and then same thing. I used to brag about eating whatever I wanted, and still, flying under the radar. And then all of a sudden, it's like my dad was a 38 waist. I'm like, okay, I'm not going there. Pretty soon, it's like, son of a bitch, man. I'm gonna have to go 38 or wear sweatpants all day long. So I'm like, there's the 38, and then that started just like bulging, and I'm like, not going to 40, not happening. And that was about the time I got a wake up call from my doctor that, hey, you're on this really reckless path and you need to take some action and do something about that. And so it was kind of, I say it was slow, but it was in a period of maybe 10 years. But with that, it ramped up fairly, steadily, kind of snuck up on me.
And
yeah.
At any point in there, did you try and go on any diets? Did you try and get to the gym? Did you try and do anything about it?
Yeah, I think the first couple of years in college, I guess you'd call it like a gym rat. Like I really wanted to like bulk up, and so I hit the weights pretty good and looked okay. And then it's, after college is the only time I went on my first diet, and it was the South Beach diet. And it's like, wow, it kind of worked. But it's like, for me, it wasn't sustainable. So I tried Atkins for a bit. And then I tried the white knuckle diet. Like I could do this. I'm just going to lose weight. Like I just decided I'm just going to lose weight. And for me, my method of losing weight was to just add a salad to whatever I was eating. And that would like erase all of the calories from the other stuff. Which it wasn't a good plan. It didn't work very well, but that was like my, somehow if I eat that, it's just all this other stuff just disappears. Um, so I kind of did my own version of my own diets, but I tried a few other things. I didn't do like the Weight Watchers and any kind of like, go in and get weighed and have the accountability. It was all just me trying to kind of do it on my own. And what I was missing though, the real piece for me was I didn't want frozen foods that were full of preservatives and chemicals. And I wanted healthy, I wanted natural, I wanted something that was sustainable and something I could do for the rest of my life. And so when I got that information, and for me it was forks over knives, like this light bulb moment went off. And I realized that's something I can do. And so, but it was, in the beginning, it was a little tough, just kind of changing the way I viewed food.
And, I know you're a father, and I think that, you guys, it sounds like in both sides of the family have had, health issues. I think, have had some early deaths. How much of being a parent yourself played into your decision to make that adjustment?
Hugely. And being an older, my wife and I, as older parents, that was the reason I did it. I want to be around to see my daughter's wedding. I want to be there when they graduate from college. I'd love to someday have grandkids and be around. My dad died at 53. It was 10 days after I graduated from college. And so he didn't see my sister's wedding, and he wasn't able to make it to my graduation. And so he missed a lot. And so, that was probably the biggest reason for them. I like to think that if I didn't have kids, that I would have still done it for myself. But it's probably 90-10 them. It's hard to know because without them, I'm not sure what my frame of mind would have been. But it definitely had a massive impact on my decision to do this drastic thing called changing your diet. It's like a last resort. So yeah, it was really for the health reasons and just to be around for them.
And can you kind of give me an idea of like a picture of health or maybe lack thereof that you were at whenever, I know your doctor said something to the extent of, if you don't do something about your reckless eating, you were on your way to pre-diabetes and other medical complications. I know you mentioned you felt tired all the time, battled sleep problems, had high cholesterol. Kind of give me an idea of what you were feeling like, what the doctors were saying, if you were on meds, things like that.
Yeah. For me, I was right on the verge of needing to go on probably several different medications in terms of the traditional medical model. It's really funny. I described myself as like the Walking Dead in terms of my own energy and my body. Pretty much tired all the time. I remember telling people for years, at any moment I could just lay down and I could just go to sleep right now. But you suck it up and get through your day. And I had no idea that had anything whatsoever to do with my diet and lifestyle, but mainly diet. I thought, well, maybe there's a pill or something for my energy or, whatever. It's always a pill for something. But I didn't want to go down that path because I know that one leads to another and another and another. And it's you're treating the symptoms. You're not treating the underlying problem. And for me, the underlying problem was what I ate. And so I think the message from the doctor about you got to do something, you're obese, just that word was like this, whoa, who are you talking? It's me. Who are you talking to? Like, no, I'm not that guy, But it was really a combination of those things. And, just finally coming to the realization that I needed to do something. And then what I didn't know was that feeling tired and feeling like crap and having low energy and having aches and pains, that there was one simple answer for that until I did it. And so my baseline, that was my baseline. That was my norm. So all of a sudden changing diet and feeling better, weight starts coming off. It's like all the snowball effect in the right direction. All of a sudden I had this energy that I didn't know what to do with. felt like my body was vibrating at a higher frequency. It was like this buzzing. Like my body just wants to move. What? What's happening to me? It's like this whole new thing for me. And so it was about the time I learned that even if you have flat feet, you can still run. I hated running my whole life. And so my uncle brought over a book that was Run Less, Run Faster. And I had this little Couch to 5K program. And I'm like, I'm going to try this. And so then it just kind of snowballed, and more weight started coming off. And so going back to the doctor, they were like, whoa, who are you? What was your shift? Telling them the story. And incidentally, the doctor that let me know I was obese had a belly that was twice the size of mine. And I'm standing there, I'm looking at him, he's telling me this, and I'm like, man, I am clearly in good company here. I didn't say that, but like, yeah, it looks like we're both in this little, the BMI chart together. So that was kind of a funny moment, but I didn't say that when I'm, doing all this humor stuff inside my own head. Yeah, sorry, long answer to your question there.
No, that's all great. So what, you're used to feeling a certain way, you're used to eating a certain way, kind of have a certain expectation of all those things. What did life look like in those first days and weeks once you decided, hey, look, I gotta do something about this? What were the first steps?
Yeah, I think for me, it was about information, getting the information. And I think for anybody, you really have to be ready to make a change. I spent a lot of years kind of gathering information and I guess preparing to change. But once I made the decision, which was the first step, like, okay, we are doing this, it's happening. And we decided we were going to say, okay, for 30 days, we're going to try this. And luckily my wife was on board, because I know how hard it can be if one person is really on board and the other person's like, what are you eating, that rabbit food? Like, they want nothing to do with it. It can be difficult. So luckily we were both on board, and we got our kids on board, and we went full steam ahead. The first thing I noticed, and what we did is we bought the Engine 2 diet book. Thank you, Rip Esselstyn. And we started, playing with those recipes. And the first meal that we had from that book, I think it was like the cauliflower soup. And I'm looking at it going, man, this is not going to fill me up. I'm going to be, hungry in 10 minutes. And I wasn't. I was full and I felt great. And I didn't feel that normal tiredness set in that I got so used to. You eat and then it's like, oh, there's the cramp and now I want to collapse. That wasn't there. I was done. I felt full. I felt good. And I'm like, I could go do something right now. I could move around. That's new. And so the recipes, because I think for me, I had the support of my wife, who loves to cook, and she's a foodie. I like helping. I'm not really a foodie, although I'm embracing it. I think that was the key. And so we really just dove in and then started, playing with these amazing recipes. I thought plant-based eating was you have a plate and then you have like a head of cabbage and you just gnaw on it till it's gone, or here's your raw carrot and your raw celery. Enjoy. It wasn't that at all. It was these amazingly delicious recipes that I had no idea this world even existed. I thought if the plate doesn't have a big old chunk of meat on it, you're missing something. You better go finish loading the plate because it's not done yet. And so there was a little bit of a shift with that, just getting over the idea that I have a meal that doesn't have any meat on it, and I'm okay with that. As I eat it, I feel great. And the weight was literally, I describe it as melting off, but it was a side effect. So, yeah, it was, I guess in a nutshell, it was a paradigm shift of this world of food that I didn't know existed.
And then how long did you find that it took for you to start feeling different, for you not to have, because you talk, I know sleep issues, feeling tired all the time, that can just be debilitating in itself. So how long did you start noticing differences in that kind of arena?
Within the first couple days. It was really immediate for me. Within I'd say within 2 or 3 days, my sleep improved. My ache, the first thing I noticed, actually, the first thing was the energy. The second thing was little aches and pains that, you just get used to, just literally vanished. They were just gone. Like, wow. And then in terms of mental clarity and not having that sort of dazed and brain fog, all that lifted too. So it was just like all of these super positive side effects that were all happening at once. And yeah, for me, it was quick. I'm not sure how it is for other people. Maybe I think for people that we just jumped in the deep end. I think as people start transitioning food, maybe some of those positive side effects might happen a little slower. But yeah, I think for me, it was somewhat black and white, although we had kind of ditched the dairy for the most part years before that. But it was really the meat and the cheese that was my big, okay, those are now off the menu. And so it was kind of a quick change, so I got quick results.
And then, I know you have 2 kids. What was that like transitioning with kids? I know that, sometimes can be seen as unintended consequences for them. They're like, wait, we can't eat what? What did that look like? And maybe for people who are out there with kids who are trying to figure out how to make some changes and just looking for, direction or advice or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that was always the question we got. Well, okay, we know you guys are eating this, but what are you feeding your kids? Are you still feeding them what you guys ate before? We were I think we had a pretty good plan with that. We really wanted to demonstrate what good eating was so it became a normal thing for them. And I think anybody, as kids, whatever you grow up with is your normal. It's just normal for you. If it's normal to go through McDonald's 5 times a week, then that's just normal. If it's normal to you have giant plates of, meaty, cheesy lasagna or whatever mom's cooking, then that's just your normal. But if it's normal to have plant-based meals just continue to show up, that becomes their norm. And so we really dove into it. My wife and I both got certified through T. Colin Campbell's Center for Nutrition Studies, the plant-based certification course through eCornell. And then my daughter got really excited about that because she saw me lose weight. She's seeing us, with this more active lifestyle. So they kind of got excited about that. And so she wanted to go through the course at age 10. So she was at the time the youngest person to go through that and really was just on board with it. And there's another story. I mean, we met Dr. Campbell, and Paige wasn't able to go to a screening of the film Plant Pure Nation in Chicago, but wanted to send him a video. And so she sent him this video asking, how old do you have to be to go through this? And we showed it to him. And then he sent her a video back. It was really cute. And said, hey, there's no age. Kids, you can set the world on fire if you're into this. So I think, so the strategy, though, was we weren't just going to dump it on them. We weren't going to say, okay, you don't get your chicken nuggets and your French fries. You're going to have raw broccoli and raw kale. Enjoy that. We knew that wouldn't work. So we wanted to really educate them first. And so we slowly started transitioning foods out. The first thing to go was getting meat out of the picture. And so we would go into the grocery store with them and we would show them the meat aisle and we would talk about what different parts of the animals were. And they were just like blown away. How could that neatly packaged chicken breast like come from a chicken, or ham bones and just, the different parts of the animals. So we would turn grocery store visits into like these little nutrition field trips. And so that was a lot of fun, as well as going into their schools, into their classroom with their teachers and doing these little food demonstrations, like, eating a rainbow. We would bring in fruits and we would bring in all these different greens and have each of their classes come together, and we would teach all the kids, hey, we're going to eat a rainbow today. This is what this is. These are the nutrients. and these kids are trying raw spinach and raw kale, and they're like, what is this? What is this strange thing I'm putting in my mouth? And they're like, it's good. Like they liked it. And so we would get calls from some of the parents, saying, how in the God's green earth did you get my kid to eat spinach or kale? And so it's, it was fun to share some of those stories. So yeah, just did it kind of slow.
I think it's important you had a conversation maybe that's a little different than some people, and that it wasn't like, you're going to eat this because I said so. Like there's an element of education and inclusion. I don't have kids myself, but having had so many conversations with other people who have kids and or observing, and then also my own experience from being a kid, when you tell somebody they have to do something because they have to do it, it's a hard sell.
Because I said so.
Yeah, no, for sure. So what are your doctors saying now? I take it you never actually went on medication, but what are you getting? You were borderline pre-diabetic. You had cholesterol. All that kind of stuff. Where are you at now with all that?
Yeah, that's all been really straightened out. So I was written, a few prescriptions for things, and I never filled the prescriptions. So I never went on Lipitor and, some of the other meds that a lot of people are on. Millions of people are on that stuff. So for me, I sort of feel like I cheated all that in a way, because I caught it at a point where I could still do something about it. And I think that's kind of the case for most people. You hear stories of people getting wheeled into heart surgery and they say, hey, wait, time out. We don't have to do this. We can change your diet and reverse this. So it's never too late. For me, the conversation's interesting because I had changed doctors, and the most recent doctor was asking if I was getting enough, drinking enough milk, and am I still getting plenty of protein with meat products? And she had no idea what that was going to open up in terms of a conversation. So it's been a lot of educating in our community. I mean, we're sort of in the epicenter of meat and dairy country. A lot of obesity here, a lot of type 2 diabetes. I mean, I know it's everywhere, but it seems like with that, there's also this idea that a vegan or plant-based diet is somehow alien and kind of this radical thing, and so we're doing a lot in the community to change that, and we're getting word out, and we're reaching out and talking to doctors and other medical professionals about our Plant Pure Pod group that we have, and we're doing a new Plant Pure Health and Weight Loss seminar starting this month. So our goal is to just make this normal for this community. So doctors will ideally have different conversations with their patients, and instead of saying, okay, we're now going to put you on this medication, saying, hey, here's something to check out to help you with changing your diet and lifestyle. And let's start there. Let's not have food a last resort. Let's start there. If that doesn't work, we can talk about other options. But so as far as the prescriptions, I had them in hand, and I tossed them and said, this isn't going to work for me. I don't want to go down that road. I'm going a different direction.
That's awesome. What about this journey has surprised you that you just weren't expecting at the beginning?
I'd say the biggest thing for me was the change in the way I felt. I thought, okay, if I eat healthier, maybe I'll shed a few pounds. Maybe I can get out of that BMI, in the red zone. But I wasn't expecting to have this buzzing vibration in my body and my body wanting to move more. I wasn't expecting aches and pains to just literally disappear. The other thing that was a real surprise for us, and maybe it has something to do with the community, was when we started the Plant Pure Pod here in Dubuque. I thought it would just be my wife and I, the only ones there at the meeting, but we had a big group of people come. People have been really more interested in learning about how to do this than I thought. So that was a surprise to me, that other people would be interested and say, hey, wow, you look great. How did you do that? I want that too. Can you help me? So started doing some health and wellness coaching and got certified in that. And so I've been doing that. But for me personally, the biggest surprise was the massive shift in a positive direction about how I feel.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, just a few last questions. If you can have a conversation with somebody who's on day one, who, maybe they got some bad news from their doctor, or they're realizing that they want to be around for their kids, or whatever that might be, what advice would you give that person on day one?
Yeah, I would say the first thing they should do is really spend some time inside their own head, getting really clear about what is your compelling reason? What's your compelling why? What is your biggest reason for even considering making a change? Really getting in touch with that and owning that, because that is what will keep you moving forward. That's what will keep you motivated when things feel strange and they feel uncomfortable, they feel unfamiliar. And really, really having a really personal relationship with your own compelling why. What's your reason? Do you just want to lose weight? Do you want to be around for your kids? Do you want to climb a flight of stairs without having to stop and rest? Do you want to be able to sit in a chair comfortably? Do you want people to stop staring and looking and say, wow, look at the fat guy, or whatever, so really owning that. And I think having a strong, compelling why or reason is critical for doing the steps necessary. Because it isn't necessarily, it's going to feel weird at first, uncomfortable, unfamiliar, is it worth it? And I can tell you straight up, yes, it's worth it. No question. I think anybody that's lost significant amounts of weight and got on a healthier path to do it, I'm very much an advocate of let's look at nutritional weight loss rather than some kind of other radical types of weight loss. And really, having your reason be a story that you can tell other people to motivate them. For me, it was my family and my kids, and wanting to be around, wanting to be healthy, wanting to be active, not wanting to be somebody that's just a miserable person. Not that I was, but had I stayed on that path, it was just a function of time before I would have went from 240 to 280 to 320 to 340 to 450. I mean, that was just a function of time. And luckily, that trajectory was interrupted with some great information that I got at the right time, and I was ready, and I had my compelling why.
That's great. And then, if you could go back in time and have a conversation with yourself whenever you were at your biggest and where you maybe had that reckless eating and all those kinds of things, what advice or what kind words would you give to that person?
Kind words? For me, I'm not always motivated by kind words. Sometimes I need that splash of cold water, that slap going, dude, wake up. I would say if there were kind words, I'd say, dude, wake up. What you're doing is something that is not going to serve you well going forward. I would say you want to think about every single thing you put in your mouth has an effect. Every bite matters. The salad doesn't erase things. It gives you a little fiber and, water, but so every single bite of food has an effect. It moves you one way or another. Every bite of food makes you a little bit healthier, a little bit sicker, and it's a slow process. I would remind myself that I used to wonder how many more bacon double cheeseburgers can I eat before I'm going to have a coronary event. That was my intuition, saying, okay, there is a number, and then something's going to happen. It's not like you can just keep going. So I would tell myself, get some good information and really absorb that internally and make a change now, even if it's something small, because those small changes can really add up and have profound effects. So don't wait. I always thought, you know what, this tastes too good. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to love it. Next time, I'm going to get the veggie burger and the salad. Well, that next time went on for 20 years. 20 years of next times. Make this your next time.
Yeah, it's like perpetual New Year's Eve. Oh, well, January 1st is going to come tomorrow. It's going to be a good night. Yeah.
Yeah. Life's short, you only live once.
It will be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, great. Well, if people are hearing your story and resonating and want to try and connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, great question. So my wife and I have a Facebook page called Whole Living Nutrition. So just written out Whole Living Nutrition. And we have a website, wholelivingnutrition.com, where that was something we wanted to do as we, experienced these changes. Thought, okay, we know other people want to do this. We created some online courses. We have a 21-day program that people that just want to test drive this and just kind of jump in and try it for 3 weeks, and they can get out if they want. But what we've experienced is that people love it and they stay on it. All of those courses are on our website. Those would be the best ways. Reach out through Whole Living Nutrition on Facebook, or jump on our website. That'd be great.
Awesome. Well, I'll include a link to all that. And Scott, thanks again for taking the time to spend with me, for sharing your story. And I'm glad to hear you'll be around for your daughter's wedding and many more years. And look forward to catching up with you soon.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jason.
Take care.